this is how to use drum machines to teach note value and rhythm notation. If you do this well, hopefully your students will enjoy better retention of the information. It's easier to identify student issues. So if you are teaching an instrument with these other concepts, they might have trouble playing rhythms or understanding rhythms, but it also might be a technical issue rather than conceptual issue. So by doing these exercises in the drum machine, you're going to understand if your students are having conceptual issues or just mechanical instrument issues. So you get a little bit of a better point of granularity there. And if you do this right, it's more fun and you can make it really nice and collaborative to use the drum machine. It should be pretty cool. So I'm sure right now a lot of us were taught this kind of idea or maybe teach this. I draw this diagram all the time, but seeing this hierarchy of notes is typically what we give to students, and this is important. But I've run through this with students a whole bunch of times. They say, yes, I get it, fantastic, and then maybe next week we go over it and it's like starting fresh. So what I like to do for this, instead of starting with that hierarchy, I'll starting with something with this, and this relates a little bit more to how the drum machine is going to think about notes, and it still gives all the same information. So the important part of this is what the one measure looks like, because the drum machine really works in these one measure blocks. So the bottom one, where we see 16th notes going all the way across, that's an important one to hit with students and make sure they understand that, because when we get into the drum machine interface, you're going to see how that is relevant. So it's important for them to know almost the reverse of how we normally think of it, where we're splitting the note values down. We actually want to think of it backwards, where they think of how many 16th notes fit into each of these. They want to be able to know that 16 16th notes fit into a whole note and all the way up the chain. To do this exercise, I like these apps. Drumbit will be the one that I'm using in this video. The One Motion drum machine is also very straightforward. And then if you don't like either of those, the hiphopmakers.com link has a whole ton of free drum machines that you can play with and pick your favorite from. All of these should be free. They should be in your run in your browser, and they should be relatively easy to launch. So let's go ahead and go over into the drum machine and talk about some of the basic functions here. So if you haven't used the drum machine before, I'm going to do a really quick rundown, and then we'll start going into the worksheet that I've worked up for students to start using this. But so in this quadrant, you have drum machine options. So you have just like volume, swing. You probably don't want to work with yet. These swings aren't fantastic on drum machines, or on these drum machines at least. They get a little bit weird, so I would recommend you have your students keep that at 0. Kit lets you change the sounds that they're playing with. Effects lets you do like reverbs and stuff like that. That can be fun to play with. And the demo is nice. This loads in sample beats, so you can start visualizing what a beat actually looks like in the drum machine, which is important. Keys mode lets you play it with a keyboard, but for now I'll just be clicking everything in because it's easier to see. Up here, you can save. You can actually get 4 different measures of this. So if you think of each one of these as a measure, you can make a 4 measure long pattern. Again, for the students, we're probably just going to keep with 1. And then they can save them if they want to. Volume, this lets you mix the volume of the drums. We probably don't need to blast with that much. So, like I was saying, the 16th note row is important to think about because that's what we're seeing right here. We have 16 blocks, and when we click, we drop a note in that. So, up here at the top, you have your big downbeats, your 1, 2, 3, 4, and these are giving you these groups of 4. Some drum machines that are a little bit fancier will have these colored differently, which is nice to keep track of where those downbeats are. It can be a little easy to get lost in this this row of just dark gray ones. But remind your students, be using these as reference points. So the big function of this is this grid. And how the grid works is you have drums going across here, and then time going across here. And when you click it, you're just going to be telling the drum machine, I want you to trigger a note right here. So actually, I guess I unclicked those, but we'll just say demo, and that'll clear it out. So if we just wanted to do like a random pattern, and I guarantee your students, when you give them this, they will just go and want to do this first, which is totally good, and they're going to learn a lot from it. You know, why not? Then we're going to give them some tasks and make them use this a little bit more. So we're going to start building ways for them to see the relationships between note values and the drum machine. So I put together this little worksheet. I'll link this down in the bottom of the video. The very first tasks we're saying is, can you translate these basic rhythms over to the drum machine? So the kick drum, 4, right? We're looking to drop these every downbeat, right? So we should be telling our students, showing them that 4 of these blocks equals a quarter note. Now, we don't need to fill in these blocks because that's going to re-trigger the note every single time. That would actually be 16th notes, right? So we just put the block where the note starts. We don't need to worry about note duration. So then the snare drum, a half a counter rest, right? And then 8th note, half a counter rest, 8th. So now they should be thinking 2 beats is a rest, and then this going. So you probably see the pattern of this so far. I'm not going to go more into this. The exercise that I would recommend you have your students do are going to be to first get acquainted by putting in these. Then they pick one of these demos. So if it doesn't really matter, like the hip hop or whatever, and see, can they transcribe it? And I know this is a little weird that has links and then presumably something you'd print out. So however you want to parse that, you could split it either way. So if it's digital, give them the links. If it's not, they need a MuseScore or something to put in the rhythms, which is also totally a good exercise. But they would basically be going instrument per instrument. What does the kick look like in this pattern? Put it in snare, right? Then, so this is an example. This is what the funk one looks like. So it should come out looking like something like this. And then this is probably the most important part, and the part that should be the most fun. They get to make their own pattern, right? So give them some time, have them do anything they want. Then once they're happy with it, transcribe it down. And then to finish this off, I would have them trade these blocks of transcriptions with a friend and see if their friend can input it into the drum machine, and then check if it sounds the same. So all of this is just to get them working with the idea that how we see something in sheet music can be represented in a drum machine, and to just make it all more interactive and make it so when they are experimenting with these rhythms, they have a button that they can hear them instantly. I've been having a lot of success with this. I think it's more fun. And I think as students go forward, more students are going to be working in DAWs. More students are going to be working with drum machines. So I think it's valuable that they see these skills early and learn how to translate them into notation that they can then talk about. I think that's the really important part. That they're not just learning these skills to make things that sound good, but they're learning these skills and then connecting them to theory ideas, and they're able to converse what they're learning. All right, well, thank you for checking this out. Let me know what you think. Let me know if this works for you. I'll put the link to the worksheet to the drum machines in the bottom. And then I've also made a video that if you are giving this worksheet to students, it goes along with the worksheet, and that link will be in the bottom as well. Great. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this works.